Hi guys, in today's video we're going to be painting the White Scars Corsaro Khan from start to finish. But first of all I want to say a huge thank you to my YouTube channel sponsors Goblin Gaming who sent me Khan out for review. If you check the description box down below you'll find a direct link to Goblin Gaming's web store, and every time you purchase something from that link it greatly helps my YouTube channel, so please use the link in the description box below if you are purchasing from Goblin Gaming. As you can see, we've got a very vibrant looking white scheme in front of us for the White Scars, and I really wanted to make this miniature pop as much as I possibly could, so we went with blue shading as opposed to grey or black. I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. As always, it's going to be really long, so go grab yourselves a nice hot drink, or maybe my favourite, an ice cold beer, and we'll get started with the tutorial. I'll start off by priming the miniature using Alclad 2's Lacquer Primer White. The reason I use lacquer primers is they're very hard wearing and they cure very fast. But if you can't use lacquer primers because you need to be very well ventilated and wearing a respirator if using these, then you can also use Stynylres's polyurethane primers, and they're very good alternative to Alclad primers. If you are using Alclad primers, it's important to note that you have to have an airbrush with PTFE solvent proof seals, as if you have rubber seals on your airbrush, the lacquer primer from Alclad will damage your airbrush, so please bear that in mind. Here I'm priming at about 20 psi and I'm working about 4 to 5 inches away from the model, and I'm just getting a nice even smooth coverage on the miniature, and I'm placing it down really thinly. Now we're going to base coat the miniature using Vallejo Model Air Light Grey. Again I'm working at 20 psi and I'm just going around all of that power armour and making sure I've got a nice smooth coat of the light grey. Now we're going to use an even lighter grey. This time we're going to use Vallejo Game Air Wolf Grey, and we're just going to concentrate on the top surfaces of all the panels, and we're going to leave the light grey behind in all of the recesses. So we're starting to create highlights on the miniature. Now we're creating even more highlights, this time more extreme, using Vallejo Game Air Dead White. And this time I'm really focusing the spray patterns on the very top surfaces of all the panels, and I'm getting really close to the miniature. As you can see, I haven't got a needle cap on my airbrush, as I've been airbrushing for quite some time now and I'm very careful with my airbrushes. But if you are working this close to a miniature and you are taking the needle cap off your airbrush, be very careful, as needles can be easily damaged. Now we're going to create a panel line wash using Games Workshop Glaze Paint Guilliman Blue. The reason I went for Guilliman Blue as opposed to grey or black is I really wanted the miniature to pop and come alive and be really vibrant, and I feel the blue would do this much better than using grey or black for the panel line wash. I'm using a double gnaw, very fine Kolinsky sable brush here for the panel line wash, and I'm making sure that I get as neat as possible on the miniature. As this is a white miniature, it's really crucial that you take your time with placing the shadows on the miniature and making sure that you can get as fine line as possible. And here you can see what the miniature looks like after the Guilliman Blue had been applied all around the recesses of the miniature. Now we're going to tidy up some of the areas where the Guilliman blue may have got a little thick in areas, and we're also creating some more extreme highlights. This time we're using a brush though, so I'm just tidying up some areas of the miniature with the Instar white paint. Now we're going to create some chips on the miniature using Games Workshop's base paint Rhinox hide. As opposed to using a sponge, I decided to do it with a paintbrush this time, as I really didn't want to add too many chips. Even so, I still think I added a little too many chips to the white power armor, so in the case of adding chips to white power armor, less is more I think, especially if you want a nice clean end result. Now we're going to paint some of the tassels that are hanging off Khan, and also the edges of the shoulder pauldrons and other little details with the corn red. As this is the air variety, I don't need to thin it down as it's already really thin and it goes on the miniature nice and smooth. Now we're going to use Games Workshop's base paint Zandri Dust to paint all of the pelts on the back of Khan, and we're also going to paint the inner cloak with the Zandri Dust, and also the eagle that's perched on his right arm. Here we're going to use Bloody Red from Vallejo Game Air, and we're going to start creating highlights on the back of the cloak. The cloak was originally base coated in Games Workshop's Corn Red, and as you can see here, I'm just highlighting with the Bloody Red. Be very careful while getting this close to the miniature. Lower your PSI. I had my PSI still at about 20 PSI, which is not the best. I should have lowered it to about 15 PSI working at this close to the miniature. All of the metallics on the miniature is going to be painted in exhaust manifold, and this is a really nice colour, and it's very thin, so it airbrushes perfectly, but it also hand brushes lovely too. I decided to paint Khan's face separately on a cocktail stick, and the paints that we're going to be using is Life Colours Flesh Paint Set and Flesh Shadowing Set. These are absolutely fantastic, and there's not that many people in the wargaming hobby that use these paints, but I can highly recommend them. They're highly pigmented, and the special shadowing washes work way better than Games Workshop washes, and even come with a remover, so if you're not happy with the results you can remove the washes, and even better so, you can use the remover to actually blend the washes into the surface, so you can create some really nice subtle blends. Now we're going to use another of the paints from the set, and this time the Flesh 1 base is going to be used to highlight the face. Unfortunately, I forgot to hit the record button whilst adding the washes to the face, but I only used one wash to create shading on the face, and it was from the shadowing set from Life Colour, and it was the red tone, and I used this to make the face look a little warmer and create more deeper shadowing. Now we're going to start washing the Xandri dust areas of the miniature using Seraphim Sepia. All of the pelt got washed with Seraphim Sepia. The inner parts of the cloak got washed with Seraphim Sepia, but the eagle got washed with Agrax Earthshade. Here I'm going to wash the eagle with Agrax Earthshade. After the washes are dried on the Xandri dust areas, the parts that were washed in Seraphim Sepia and Agrax Earthshade, I then come back in with Games Workshop's Shabti Bone, and I started to highlight all of the areas of the pelt, the inner cloak, and also the eagle. And here we have our finished Khan. There's a few things that I wanted to show in the recording in this tutorial that unfortunately I missed, like creating the lightning strikes on the sword. For the sword I used Vallejo Game Air Electric Blue, and then went over it with Instar's Arctic White and created the lightning strikes. A very important thing to do with the lightning strikes is make sure you get them as thin as possible, so use a 000 or a 00 paintbrush and you should be able to get convincing looking lightning strikes that way. Anyway guys, I really hope you liked this tutorial, and if you have, please hit the like button, share it amongst friends, and even better still, leave a comment and let me know what you think of the tutorial. Lastly, I'd like to say a huge thank you once again to the guys over at Goblin Gaming who sent me the miniature out for this tutorial. Don't forget to check that description box below if you are purchasing anything from Goblin Gaming. As I say, it does help the channel. Thank you very much for watching this video guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.